Welcome back, Patriots, for another episode of the Bald Brad Show, where we go over all the major news headlines that you need to know about going into your workday, going into the weekend. Hell, it depends when we're recording this or doing this live. You're going to be up to date on what the heck is going on in the world. And I think that's most important. We go over big picture viewer items, news items, headlines. Heck, we go over it all. We would love for you to join us throughout this entire hour-long podcast. We're here each and every day, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we are conservatives, we are Republicans, and heck, we have a lot of independents that watch the Bald Brad Show. By the way, I've said this years ago, we have more independents that watch this show than actual conservatives and Republicans combined. There's a stat for you. That's pretty remarkable, isn't it? I did not know that was the thing for the longest time. We love our independents. We love them. But I'm tired as hell, if you can't tell by the look on my face. We had a long work day yesterday. I worked from morning till like 10 or 11. So I'm here, though. Barely alive. Barely alive. And I was thinking, thank God it's a Friday episode, because Friday episodes are more loose. It's not as polished as a normal show. So it's good to see all of you. Rumble's playing fine, you guys. I see it. I'm looking at it. But let's jump into the news. Enough of me rambling. We have a bunch of headlines here for you. Let's do the Washington roundup real quick. It's been a busy few days in Washington with big news on Trump's budget bill, which we're going to get even further into the stock market, the debt stuff. I got a video clip I want to show you guys. It's long, but I wanted to show it during Dark MAGA yesterday, but since we didn't have it because your boy was working, we're going to show it today. It's about 8 minutes, but I think it's an important clip. It's informative. And boy, oh boy, it's one of my main things that I've been talking about, the debt in this country and how it's affecting our stock market, also affecting the bond market, also affecting our credit, all sorts of things. And it's packaged perfectly. We'll get there, though, right after I go over a few headlines here. Early Thursday morning, the House of Representatives passed a comprehensive tax and budget package, what the president has been calling the big, beautiful bill. This was a huge win for President Trump, who pushed congressional Republicans to pass a single bill rather than several smaller pieces of legislation, and perhaps an even bigger win for House Speaker Mike Johnson, who not only rallied his caucus to this seemingly impossible task, but he did so by his self-imposed Memorial Day deadline. You got to give it where credit's due, man. I know a lot of us aren't exactly big fans of Mike Johnson, but dude, he has the hardest job, I think, in Congress. I've said it time and time again. The Republican Party is different than the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party doesn't really have many factions in it. You want to know a faction inside the Democrat Party? Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, AOC, those nut jobs, Bernie Sanders. Like, that's it. They have the squad, right? We have fiscal conservatives. We have regular conservatives. We have Republicans. We have fiscal Republicans. There's all these different bubbles inside the Republican Party. And that's why it's talking about, well, almost seemingly impossible task, because you're having to get all these guys rallied together to get this legislation done. I don't think if Donald Trump was president that you would get this legislation done. Even if there was the same exact legislation, I don't think it would happen. The bill passed the House with the 215-214 vote, which we talked about yesterday, with every Democrat voting no. You got to love that. By the way, every Democrat voting no. So one thing you can say about the Democrat Party, not only are they idiots, but there's a lot of them. And I guess I'll throw another one out there. They're unified. That's for sure. And a handful of Republicans dissenting as well. So the legislation now goes to the Republican-controlled Senate. There's always Republicans dissenting. Like, that's one thing you can say about our party. We're still not unified. Not in the way that the Democrat Party is. Maybe it's because we move based on our brains and not on our feelings. I don't know. The bill contained many key priorities, which I did like, for the Trump administration. Russ Vought, the director of the Office of Management and Budget, joked that there was so much good stuff in the bill, it was impossible for him to single out the most important part. You're asking me to choose amongst my children? They're all very important. We have ended fiscal irresponsibility. We'll get to that. We'll get to it. And futility. But not being able to pass big reductions in mandatory savings, that makes total sense. Among other things in the bill, which is more than 1,000 pages long, which means nobody read it, raises the debt limit to $4 trillion. That's what I'm going to get to, folks. It's not 4 trillion. No. The bill is 4 trillion. 3.3 trillion. We'll get there, but it's all misleading. Folks, I'm telling you, very rarely do I ever on the Bald Brad show play like an 8 to 10 minute long clip. Very rarely ever. I should maybe early on in the show. It's been years. Give me a break. I think the video is that important. So if you could stick around, please, because I think it's very important to see where our country's headed and where we're at right now. It's not good. It extends the 2017 tax Trump cuts, which is huge for everybody, which is set to expire at the end of the year. Meanwhile, this week, Trump hosted a South African president in the Oval Office, which was hilarious. They want to talk tariffs and foreign aid. Remember, this came on the heels of the White House welcoming 59 white South African farmers to the United States, and the left lost their mind. Trump brings in 59 people that are allegedly actually being persecuted and deleted. The left lose their mind over it. Joe Biden brings in millions of people, thousands of terrorists, thousands of murderers, thousands of sex traffickers, the whole bit, drug lords, cartels, everybody, gang members. And the left are parading in the street. Look what Joey's done. He's our savior. 59 people. That has a pretty good case of being here. Versus millions. It's the most ass backwards party you'll ever see in your life. And somehow they'll pretzel their way into making sense of all of this. But Trump came prepared to have the conversation with the president of South Africa after one point dimming the lights in the Oval Office to play video games. No, I'm kidding. To play videos at anti-white rhetoric in South Africa. There we go. You only do it when you're really tired. What? Do what? What are you talking about? I'm trying to stay alive right now. What do you need? What are you talking about in the chat about me? All right, moving on. Embassy staff gunned down in anti-Semitic terror attack. This is something that we talked about. We want to see if there's more news out there. 2 Israeli embassy staffers were gunned down in Washington, which is just terrible. We talked about this yesterday. On Wednesday night, again, they were at the Capitol Jewish Museum, and which was just blocks from the Capitol. And these 2 individuals were gunned down by an individual that was pro-Palestinian. Well, days before the attack, the museum where the shooting took place applied for a security grant, interesting, from the DC government, citing concerns about security due to some very scary incidents that some institutions have faced and because of a climate of anti-Semitism. I was told that wasn't happening. I was told all these pro-Palestinian, all these protesters, they love the Jews. They want the Jews to stick around. They like them. I mean, they wouldn't let them go to class. They'd beat the shit out of them in the streets, at campuses. That's not a big deal, but what's the problem? Nothing's going to happen, except they're deleting people now. That will happen. Yeah, they'll off people just randomly. No, they're good. All those pro-Palestinian protesters, they're good people. They're great people. What do you mean? What do you mean chanting and supporting Hamas, a terrorist organization? What's wrong with that? I didn't know anything was wrong with that. Not according to them. I thought it was the cool thing to do now was to, be a pro-terrorist sympathizer. I thought it was the cool thing to do. You get a lot of streamers that boast about them. Oh, they're great people. They're good stuff. No, it's awesome. They're gonna make the country a better place. They're not gonna go to Gaza and do all their protesting. Of course not. They're not gonna go to Israel and do all their protesting. Of course not. They just do their crap here. You know what I mean? Yeah, you can say like, oh, well, we're giving the Israelis weapons, blah, blah, blah. If that's what you want to protest, that's fine. Why don't you go to where the problem is and try to fix it? Do you notice on the show here, you never hear about me protesting about anything else that's happening around the world? You guys notice that? Ever? You don't ever hear me going and protesting, or I guess, let me just say it. I mean, I cover the news here because that's what we do. But whatever's going on Russia, Ukraine, my philosophy is, my hope is they figure it out. It doesn't involve me. I got no skin in the game. Israel, Gaza. I got no skin in the game. I kind of do like balls and strikes in my opinion of who I think is right and wrong, depending on what the situation is. But I'm not out in the streets protesting. They got to figure it out. Doesn't involve me. I got no skin in the game. It's almost like that for everything. Even, by the way, even in the United States, it's like that. There's probably some crazy crap happening in all your states. Doesn't concern me. I don't live in Kansas. I don't live in Alabama. Just in the same way, well, California does kind of concern you guys because, well, whatever happens here gets outsourced to you guys pretty much. So, suckers! Shortly before the attack, Rodriguez published a manifesto titled "Escalate for Gaza." Bring the war home. There he wrote that anyone supporting Israel had forfeited their humanity. Gee, this is how these people think, man. They're not well. I mean, a huge portion of the Democrat Party is really not well. And we've gone so long with treating them as if they are normal because we don't shame anybody anymore. And I think there's a really great point to be made here. You can't shame a shameless society. I mean, look around at Americans now. They wear clothes that don't fit. We wear clothes that don't fit. We don't care about our education system, so we got a bunch of youngsters walking around like they're fucking idiots. Don't know their ass from their mouth. Barely tie their shoes. Don't know basic fifth grade knowledge. And they're graduating college at alarming rates. Folks, you used to, back in the day, college was reserved for high IQ individuals. Most people never went to college, male and female. Most people never went to college. For the majority of our nation's history, it was reserved for, again, high IQ individuals. So explain to me, if it was always for high IQ individuals, why all of a sudden our general population is passing college at just alarming rates. And by the way, going into college without knowing how to read or do math, basic math. Somebody explain that to me, how that is even possible. How is it you just all of a sudden the light bulb went off and you go, well, shit, I don't even know Algebra 2. I got passed along the system. And somehow you're going into college passing calculus and statistics? Really? All of a sudden it's just you're killing it in biology, chem, astrology. Astrology has crazy mathematics, by the way. All of a sudden you're just an engineer. You just figured it out, huh? In a span of 6 months. Just like, wow, I'm a savant now. Where the average IQ of Americans is actually below 100 because it fell for the first time in a century. Explain that to me. How's that possible? And I'm not saying I'm smart. Please understand. Yo, hello. I've always said I'm an idiot. At least I admit it. At least I admit that I'm a dumbass. Nobody else does. Everybody acts like they're fucking holier than thou. I want somebody to explain to me how it's possible all these people that are out there protesting, saying stuff, deleting people, why we treat them like they're so normal. Maybe, somebody that was severely bullied in school, got their ass kicked in school, in elementary school. Every day I was bullied. So I don't like bullying, but maybe we should bring it back. Maybe we should. In recent years, Rodriguez was heavily involved, that's the guy that deleted them, involved in far left political activism. But you won't see this making mainstream news everywhere, right? This isn't on the teleprompters 24/7, is it? Because it goes against the left's narrative. It goes against the mainstream narrative. Their narrative right now is to do full-fledged, wall-to-wall coverage of Donald Trump and just give anything and everything that's negative. Even if it's good. Even if it's good, it's all negative. Taking part in numerous anti-Israel demonstrations and working with the party for socialism and liberation, Jewish leaders have been warning that growing anti-Israel sentiment on college campuses and in the media would inevitably lead to attacks like this one. I mean, everybody saw it coming, right? Everybody saw it coming. Colorado makes misgendering illegal. We covered this in the past. This is not new. This is an update, folks. Get the hell out of Colorado. Just, you guys scream at me, get the hell out of California. Yo, we're bad, but misgendering isn't illegal yet. This is crazy. We covered this. This is an update. Here you go. Misgendering is now officially illegal. Discriminatory act under Colorado law. I have, hand to God, I don't even know how this is possible. I don't even know how this is possible with the First Amendment. Let's break it down. California Democratic Governor Jared Polis signed House Bill 1312 into law last week. This applies to places like workplaces and schools. Now, you have to have been a longtime subscriber and listener of the Bald Brad Show to know Come here. Come here. This is one of those. Except you got to join me. This isn't just for Democrats. This is for everybody. Yep, come on. Everybody here? We're going to take roll call. Attendance time. Okay. Okay. Shh. I called this shit 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I was talking about this. I'm not kidding. I've seen it. I've seen it. I left a school district because this was applied in the state of California. Now you're seeing it on a state level. And guess what? I was on Anthony Brian Logan's podcast. He has over 1 million followers, subscribers. I told him about this years ago. Whenever you hear him talking about pigtails and bracelets and kids exchanging them, you know how he knows that? I told him. I told him a lot of stuff about the education system years ago. It's bonkers. You get fired now. So let me explain to you what they were doing years ago. This is going back 5 years ago. What they were doing was they were still pushing this LGBTQ plus initiative to trans your damn kids. And now you see trans kids everywhere in the public education system. And I will share a story. It's an antidote. It's a personal story. I was taking roll one day and I was covering for somebody. And I go, this is real. And these are basically real names. I go, hey, is David here? David. And I'm like looking around and like nobody's even looking at me. Mind you, I'm taking attendance. David. And so I try to find somebody near me. I was like, hey, is there a David in your class? And they're like, there's no David here. I'm like, okay. And then I look at the seating chart that the person gave me, and I don't see a David. I'm like, all right, that's weird. And so I move on and I go, hey, did I miss anybody? Did I not call your name? And this person raises their hand. And I mean, it's clearly a dude in women's clothing. I mean, come on, you could tell. It's something stupid here. We're not all that dumb. I mean, we're dumb, but we're not that dumb. And you go, oh, I'm here. I'm like, yeah, but what's your name? And they said a name. I think it was like Jessica or something. And I'm looking down the list, and I go, are you in the right class? Like, I don't have you on here. Like, what's your last name? And they give me the last name. I was like, oh, okay. As time goes on, they started wearing bracelets and pigtails, like different colored stuff, certain shirts. And we had a meeting, and it was with the entire faculty of the school, the entire administration, the counseling team, and the school psychology team. And what they said was this right here. The conversation was about trans. We had a trans training, LGBTQ plus training. And you guys have heard me talk about this in the past, where they passed out all these like graphs. And it was the funniest thing to me, because you kind of sit in your departments because that's who you work with all the time. You don't exactly you don't hang out with the English department because you don't work. I'm in mathematics. I don't work in English. They're great people, but I just don't ever see them because there's no reason to go talk to an English person. But the science department and math department kind of get along because we kind of teach the same stuff. So the science department is, this is hand to God real. They're taking, I wish I had a piece of paper on me. Let me see here. Ooh, there's money in there. Hold on. Okay, I can use the Constitution. They have like the thing like this, right? The piece of paper, and they're like rotating it like this. And they're like looking at each other going, what the F? Science teachers, like biology teachers and stuff going, what the F? And it was a trans paper trying to explain how somebody can be fluid in their gender, in their sex, on how they can go back and forth. And they said, if you don't gender them correctly, and if you don't call them by the correct name, you could be fired. And so they pulled up the school handbook on us. And the question was, and this goes back to the scenario that I had at a different school, how do you know? How do you know? Because they could change their name, they could change their gender anytime they want. And that was the conversation. Because you have a very specific name, they're legally called per their parent. We generally use this thing called Aries. Aries will tell us the kid's name legally, what the parents want their kid to be called by. You got to go by it. So what do you do if the kid in the classroom goes by Jessica, but on the roster, Their name's David. What do you do? Because now you just been fired. You just been let go. And you want to know what their answer was? You just have to figure it out. I'm hand to God that's what it was about. And everybody's like, well, that's not possible because sometimes they don't feel comfortable telling you. And it went down a rabbit hole. And so they could theoretically say this was a bracelet. It's a black bracelet right now, right? They're going by the name Jessica. That's the signifier that you're supposed to know. That Brad's supposed to know that you're going by Jessica today. And that you're a female. Goes to the bathroom during class while your back's turned and you're teaching, right? Because you're actually doing your job. That's what you get paid for, to teach, not to misgender somebody or to worry about somebody's fucking all these problems that they have in the classroom with behavioral problems. I'm not your fucking parent. I just want to teach. Just want you to do well in math. That's all I care about. That's all I care about. I don't want to raise you. I don't have my own children. If I wanted to raise somebody, I'd get my own kids. Not your parent. You're a human being that I want to succeed. That's it. They go to the bathroom, switch out their bracelet. Now it's a pink bracelet. You're teaching 40 people in the classroom. You're supposed to hone in on that bracelet and go, oh, you're no longer Jessica now. Gotcha. Oh, you're back to David. Okay, understand. Thank you. Or they'll do pigtails, or they'll do shirts. If you think I'm kidding, I'm as serious as a heart attack. Now, how does that play? And there's a long story, but I want you guys to know that stuff's real. And it's happening all across the country. It's to the point where you don't even know about it, by the way. This isn't something that's like emailed to parents. This isn't something where parents are brought in, hey, everybody, let's talk about this. No, you guys are left out of the dark so fucking much your head would spin. Somebody needs to tell you that. In public education, you parents are left out of the dark so much your head would fucking spin if you realized what was going on. You guys, and I'm telling that to my own supporters, by the way. You guys have no fucking idea what is going on in the education system. I've been trying to alarm you guys for years. I don't mean to cuss, but some wild shit, man. Somebody has to tell you. I've never been hit. I've never had what goes on in the education system. I've always been an open book. I'll tell anybody. I don't give a shit. I've never met you before. I'll tell you, like, yo, you don't have the slightest clue. You don't have the slightest clue. You have the form of how you went to school. You don't know the shit that goes on, man. It's a fucking chaos. It's like prison, dude. Shit's crazy. I'm just outspoken about it. Obviously, the place that I work, I enjoy, but look, it's either where I'm at or I ain't a teacher at all. Put it that way. I went back to public for a while ago. I resigned. I guess I'll be candid with you guys. I was at a public school last year that was paying me 6 figures to be there. I resigned in 3 weeks. That's how bad it was. You couldn't pay me enough money to sit through that shit. I'm going to say that again. I was getting paid 6 figures to be at this public school. I resigned. I knew I was going to quit and I wasn't going to stay there in the first week. I was going back into accounting. I was actually leaving teaching altogether. I was going to be back into accounting again. By the way, I was doing the show during this time. This was last year. I said, fuck that. One day I'll play you guys a clip. I actually have audio. Actually, I don't have video of children. I don't do that shit. But I want you guys to hear, you know what? You guys want to do it right now? Let me know in the chat. Do you guys want to hear the audio? I'm going to do a DVA. It's Friday. It's a loosey-goosey episode. You guys want to do the audio? Here we go. No. Let's do it. If you guys want, I will do it. I have video. Should we just play the video? Let me see. Let me find it if you guys want. Let me know in the chat. Let's see if we have it. Bradley has to find it. Hold on. Because I wanted my wife to see what I was dealing with. Because she, people don't understand. They really don't. And I don't think, I want you guys to get an idea of what it's like inside the classroom. Sure, let's let it, Brad. Let's see. Okay, people are saying hell yeah. All right, hold on. Give me a second here. God, I got so much crap in my phone. It's all my YouTube shorts in here. All right, hold on. Give me a second, folks. All right, how about we do this? While I find it, I'm going to finish this really quick, this article. We'll watch the video. While I'm finding the video, I'll find the video. We'll play this video and then we'll get it. So let's finish this up. The law is drastically pared down from its original version, which said parents in custody battles who misgender or dead name their child were guilty of coercive control and could lose custody. Hopefully this is ringing a bell now. Under Colorado law, coercive control is a serious category that includes things like threatening to kill someone. The bill was an attack on parental rights, Colorado House Minority Leader stated to the Daily Wire. This is an issue that transcends party lines. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican, a Democrat, or unaffiliated. Nobody wants the government to be raising our children or telling us how to raise our children. Correct. But when it comes to the education system, everybody wants to turn a blind eye to it. Oh, I don't know what's going on there. More than 700 Coloradians signed up to testify against the bill, and tens of thousands more signed petitions against it. Ultimately, Democrats were forced to strike the radical custody battle language, and some Democratic lawmakers even backed down and refused to vote for it unless the custody provision was removed. The new law bars Colorado courts from enforcing statutes from other states that could remove children from parents who support their children taking transgender hormones or undergoing surgeries. It also requires schools that have dress codes to allow students to wear the uniform of the opposite gender, and mandates that schools have policies affirming chosen names. The bill also allows people who identify as transgender to change the gender marker on their driver's license up to 3 times without a court order. Colorado has other controversial bills on transgender ideology coming down the pike. So again, this applies to places like work, schools, and violations of statute could lead to fines or other civil penalties under Colorado anti-discrimination laws. So now you can be locked up, given a fine. So in other news, while I pull up the video, if I could find it in my phone, is I want to get to this clip here. Now, if you're not familiar with this gentleman, I will post a link to his channel. Hat's crooked. Come on, guys, you're gonna well, we're going over the news today. My hat's all crooked. Jesus, look at this. There we go. All right, now I look somewhat straight. He's going to be talking about the U.S. debt crisis and how it's shaking up the stock market. This was big news yesterday, and I think even Mike was talking about it when we rated his channel. By the way, guys, we got to be careful rating people's channels because I think we're plugging the show too much. So we got to be careful. We got to be really careful not to piss anybody off. But I appreciate everybody plugging the show. But I think some of us almost got removed yesterday. So we got to tone it down. We got to tone it down just a little bit. We're crazy. He's talking about the U.S. debt crisis shake on the stock market. And he's going to be showing you what's currently happening right now with our credit, with the stock market, with bonds, and how really kind of nobody's even trusting us anymore. You guys, this is a phenomenal video. I wouldn't play it for you if I didn't think it wasn't. Here we go. Very informative. He's a CPA, by the way. He's an accountant. He looks like one, obviously. If you look at him. Okay, here we go.
Stock market is being shaken by the U.S. debt crisis. So let's start with this. Last week, the United States credit rating was downgraded by Moody's. So essentially, this means that the U.S. has lost its perfect credit rating. So there are 3 major credit rating agencies. There's Standard & Poor's, and they downgraded the U.S., and this is back in 2011. Fitch Ratings, they downgraded the U.S. in 2023. And now Moody's downgraded the U.S. on May 16th. So Moody's issued a downgrade because of the federal government's rising national debts and annual deficits. Essentially, the federal government is living beyond its means. They're just spending more than they're bringing in. And the debt has gotten to alarming levels. Now, this credit downgrade by Moody's, I'm just gonna be blunt here. Most people, they really didn't care about it. It had minimal impact. Nobody cares. I'm just being honest here. But what people do care about is the stock market. So we're gonna shift over to that. Okay, so I'm gonna lead into that by saying this. The US government's debt crisis is just getting worse. And this year under President Trump, it's gonna be no difference. For the year, the government's going to bring in about $5 trillion. So you can think of that as a revenue. And the government's going to spend about $7 trillion. So that means that the government's going to borrow another $2 trillion more. And that's $2 trillion more towards the national debts. So already in the first 6 months of the fiscal year, the deficit has grown to 1.3 trillion. Now, here's the problem. So for the year, the US government's going to have to borrow about $2 trillion, right? The deficit, the difference.
Listen to this.
But on top of that, the government needs to pay back money that they've borrowed that's coming due in 2025. And
Again, we got to pay people back. Here's the problem. You don't have any money. How are you going to pay anybody back when you have no money? Well, you borrow more money to pay back the people that you borrowed the money from in the first place. So you're borrowing money to pay back money. Remember how I always tell you can take this down to the individual, and I promise we'll continue? How this impacts individual lives, and I've seen it, by the way, when I was a tax accountant. People go to those payday loan places, and they take out a bunch of debt to pay for rent or whatever they need, and it's at an alarming interest rate. Well, then the next month comes around, they still don't have the money. So how are they going to pay off the debt that they had before, but also pay for the current stuff they are currently having right now? Rent, utilities, gas, all that stuff. Well, what they do is they take out new debt to not only pay the old debt, but also to pay for the stuff now. And it just spirals. It's a snowball effect. Your life will be crippled. We're doing this on a federal level right now, folks. This is bad.
obviously, the government doesn't have that money. So they need to borrow money to pay that back too. In 2025, approximately $9 trillion of debt matures. So the government needs to borrow $9 trillion on top of the $2 trillion deficits. So that's a lot of money that they're going to have to borrow this year. And the Trump administration is thinking, oh, America is the greatest. There's going to be lines of people dying to lend money to the US government. But that is not what happened. The 20-year Treasury auction went very badly. So I would describe the situation as similar to what happened with Rachel Zegler and the Snow White ticket sales. So yes, it was a bad attitude, overconfidence, and a flop. People were not lining up to lend money to the US government, no. Essentially, the US government had to offer higher interest rates to attract more lenders. So this 20-year Treasury auction had the highest coupon rate ever since it was reintroduced in 2020. And the interest rate on the 30-year Treasury went up past 5%. So here's a 5-year chart of the yield on the 30-year Treasury to give you some context. So just take a look at the charts. I mean, it's not looking good. The interest rate is just going up. Okay, so what is driving this? It's a mix of things. It's a lack of buyers, higher inflation expectations, loss of confidence in the US because of deficits and debt crisis, and the sell America trend. So it's multiple things, and that's the trend. And here's the one-day charts on Wednesday. So notice how the interest rate spiked up when news of the auction, how it went so poorly, was released. And here's the 10-year yield. So this is on Wednesday. It's a one-day chart. Same thing. The yield spiked up upon word of the bad auction. And we talked about the 10-year yield so much in our previous videos. We talked about how important it is because it affects mortgage interest rates as well as the stock markets.
Check this out.
So here's a 3-month chart. Being at 4.6%, that is not good. That's an elevated level. And I'm telling you, if this goes to 5%, then we are in serious trouble.
Oh, yeah.
So listen, just to be clear, higher interest rates are not good for the stock market because the stock market wants cheap and easy money.
That's a big problem because if the bond yields are going up, because we need the money. So if people aren't buying the bonds at 3%, if they're not buying the bonds at 4%, the government has to pay people back. So what are they going to do? Well, they got to make it lucrative for you to take that risk in the first place. So they keep increasing the percentage of interest that's on the bond so they get people to buy the new bonds. Well, there's a lot of risk associated with all of that. You got to pay people for the risk, especially if you're looking at 10-year, 20-year, 30-year bonds. You got to pay them for that because interest rates could skyrocket depending on what inflation could skyrocket depending on what happens here. So nobody wants to buy the bonds. Well, where are you going to get the money from? You can't keep printing it. So what do you do? And by the way, people aren't exactly willing to put their money in the stock market either. So what investment vehicle are they going to do? Now, if the interest rates on bonds do go up, which they are, well, then people will put their money in the market because that's where you're going to, really, that's your better option, the less risky option. But we got a massive problem here because we got to pay stuff back. If you don't pay stuff back, well, things go south real quick.
So it's very straightforward. I want you to think of it like this. So if bonds are paying, this is just an example, a very straightforward example. If bonds are paying 0% interest, then you're not going to be incentivized to invest in bonds because they're going to be paying you nothing. So in that case, you would take your money to the stock market in hopes of making more than 0%. And if more money flows to stocks, then the stock market's going to go up. But if treasury bonds are paying 7%, 8%, 9%, 10%, then in that case, why would you invest in stocks? Why would you take the risk in the stock market? You could just lend money to the US government risk-free and earn 10%. And that would mean fewer investors investing in stocks, which would hurt the stock markets. So high interest rates are a problem for the stock markets. Okay, so why are interest rates going up? I would say that ultimately it's because investors want to be compensated more for the risks. So is 3% going to do it? Nope. 4%? Nope. The going rates right now is 5%. It's because of the fiscal concerns, inflation concerns, or some investors, some institutions, or some countries, they just want to part ways with the US. But for me personally, like, I don't know what you think, but this is my perspective. Like, if the government wants to borrow money from me, like, Brian, lend me money, a 30-year period, 30-year duration, we're going to pay you a 5% interest rate annually. I'm going to be like, 5%? You want me to lock in at 5% for 30 years? Like, are you crazy? Like, no way, that's too risky because in certain years, like, who knows how astronomically high the inflation rate's going to be. And if I'm getting paid 5% and the inflation rate's 10%, 12%, 15%, then, well, I'm going to be losing money. And that's risky for me. So in that case, like, I want to be compensated a higher interest rate because that is risky. And here's another scary thing. So take a look at this. You have to realize that as the interest rates increase, it's going to cost the US government a lot more money. So just think about that. The US government has to borrow about 11 trillion this year at these higher interest rates, right?
Did you hear that? 11 trillion. The idea that I was talking about before, and you kind of heard this theory with what Donald Trump was trying to do, I called it and referred to it as kind of feathering the needle. One of the discussions that was happening that we gave here on the Bald Brad Show was maybe, because nobody really knows what Donald Trump's trying to do other than Donald Trump, maybe what he's trying to do is, I don't want to say crash the market, but bring the market down enough to where instead of paying 2.5% interest on the $9 trillion that we got to deal with, that basically you're going to refinance this 9 to 11 trillion, somewhere in that range, or you got to take out money anyways. Well, maybe you can get that at a lower interest rate. Maybe rather than 2.5%, you can get it at maybe like 1%. Now, I'm being obviously oversimplified on this whole analogy, but that was one of the theories was, well, you would have just saved 1.5% on like $9 trillion, which is a fuck ton of money, by the way. That was one of the theories. I don't think that theory is plausible anymore. But if interest rates are up, we got massive problems. You're seeing the snowball effect take into effect here.
The debt that's maturing this year has an interest rate, well, the average interest rate is about 2.5%. And they're going to have to refinance that with an interest rate above 4%. So that's going to be the mix between the T-bills, the notes, and the bonds. So look at how much the government has spent on interest this year. I mean, it's been getting worse, because of the growing debt and the rising rates. So look at how terrible the situation has become. Fiscal year 2025, the government has spent more on interest expense than they have on Medicare, more on interest expense than they have on national defense, 2.5 times more on interest than our veterans benefits and services. And it's just going to get.
This is a misnomer for a lot of Americans. When I teach personal finance, it's the number one missed answer I always get when I originally poll people on this. And I say, what is our number one budget item, our number one expense? It is always, people will say it's always national defense. Always. Almost. I mean, maybe one person out of like, every time I do it, it's usually close to 100 people. So maybe like one person will raise their hand and say it's not national defense. No, it's social programs. Social Security and Medicare are by far, look at that, Social Security is almost double what we pay in national defense. It is mind-blowing the brainwashing the narrative of the mainstream media and the Democrat Party has done that we're spending most of our money on national defense. Not even close, by the way. This right here, this net interest will actually surpass Social Security. It will be our largest budget item. And we will get to the point, if we keep this going, we will get to the point where we are only paying the interest on our debt and we're never actually paying the principal down. Now, again, take it back down to the individual. What happens to people's lives on an individual level when they're only able to pay the interest on their credit cards, and not even all the interest, by the way? Say your interest was $1,000 and you can only throw $100 at it. Well, what happens? Well, everything gets bigger. You're not paying down the principal. Okay, it's all variable. It's a problem. So things go south really quick, and I want documentation, which is why I keep bringing it up, and I'm negative Nancy on it, is because I later on will be the guy that told everybody, I fucking told you so, been shouting to the skies for fucking years on this, and nobody wants to listen because everybody wants to be a fucking idiot and kick this can down the road. And you're right, I'm cussing because you are an idiot if you think this is reasonable. And me and Jeff, everybody knows Jeff in the chat, follows me on TikTok. I've debated Democrats and leftists on this crap, and their answer was, well, we'll just print more money. And they were calling me the idiot, by the way. They were cussing at me and calling me that I was the dum-dum.
Get worse. Now, I want to show you the projections on how much the interest expense is going to increase in the years ahead. And I've said this before, and I'm telling you this again, that these projections, they are incorrect. They are wrong. It's going to be much worse than this because this does not factor in any future or potential bailouts or stimulus or any of the excuses to borrow trillions of dollars more. So listen, this is just one example. All these estimates out there, they don't include things like this. So for example, President Trump's tax bill, it's going to increase the deficit. So it's pretty straightforward. The government's going to collect less taxes, and if they're not going to cut spending, then they're going to have to borrow more money. And that's going to mean more debt, and that's going to mean more interest expense.
And obviously that's why DOGE is so important. That's also why cutting spending through the big, beautiful bill was so important, is because this has to stop. You can't continue this trend. You will cripple the country. I think it will happen in our lifetime. I really, or at least my lifetime. I know we got some older folks here. I hope that you live another 30, 40 years, depending on where you're at. But I think we could see the collapse of the United States financially in our lifetime. I think we could hit rock bottom.
And this is coming from someone that dislikes taxes probably much more than you do. Okay, now I want to end by clarifying this for you, and this is very important. Regarding the stock market, higher interest rates are damaging to stocks. And in the short run, higher interest rates can cause a correction. It could cause a stock market crash. But in the long run, because of inflation, stocks are just going to keep on going up. And I'll tell you, this is part of the great melt-up. I mean, if you haven't seen the series, I highly recommend that you watch that. I mean, it's for your own well-being and protection, financial protection. Please subscribe. I thank you for the support and wish you a very nice day. Take care.
I'm going to link his channel, you guys. He really is informative. He's a guy that I will listen to every now and then on certain items. But it's always nice to listen to a fellow accountant kind of talk about a few things. So we got that there for you. Alrighty, so I did have the video ready to go, but I have to be careful with this video. So give me one moment here. Let me see how I can do this. I have to be careful because there is stuff in the video that I don't want exactly shown. It's just a video of me, and you can hear the audio in the background of the video. But like I said, I don't want to. These school districts sometimes are crazy, you guys. I don't want to be sued. So please understand that. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see. All right, here we go. Let me see if I can do that. Cut that off. Bring it way over here. Let me see. All right. That works. Okay, so you can see me. Obviously, I'm a bald guy. I have to cut off a part of it because I don't want you to see what's behind me because it kind of gives things away. So let me give you the synopsis of what's going on here. This is already to the point where I knew I was leaving. I was already going to resign. Well, sorry, I already did resign. I had already lined up a new job, so like I'm good. This is the corner of the classroom. I am in the middle of teaching a lesson, by the way. Okay, so what you're about to hear, this is not a fucking break. This isn't free time. I'm in the middle of literally lecturing a class on mathematics. I would also like to point out that the person to my right, directly to my right, is a teacher aide. It was so insane in this classroom. The teacher aide that's supposed to be in there to help me, because these kids are fucking crazy and nobody wants to do anything about it. She said, I can't be in here every single day. I just can't do it. She goes, I don't know how you do it. Because you're going to see me look at her going, isn't this shit fucking wild? Now, what you're going to hear is there's 36 people in this classroom. When I say, you know, let's listen to it. And I just want you to try to visualize what's happening in front of my eyes right now. I'm in the middle of teaching.
All right, we should have 1.13 out. We're simplifying rational numbers. So we're going to do 1.13, and then I'll do the second part of 1.14. Plus a negative that I utilize a negative turn. What's negative 4 plus?
So I was able to get 1 minute into it. Hold on a second. Oh, I got another one. Hold on. Mind you, I was in the middle of teaching. I'm going to keep emphasizing that. Here we go. Here's the next one. I had to be really careful because I don't want to get in trouble. Let's see. All right, here we go. I'm still teaching, by the way.
I'm literally still teaching. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 conversations going on.
So again, this is a personal video that I'm taking. And so this isn't obviously made for you guys. This was a video that's made for my wife. And I'm telling her there's all these conversations. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 conversations. And when I'm saying conversations, I'm talking about people standing up and fucking walking across the classroom and having a full-fledged conversation right in front of them. And you think, well, what admin do about it? They laughed in their faces. What do you mean? What did they do about it? I brought in fucking everybody to try to figure this shit out for me. Are you kidding me? You think I was just like, oh, well, fuck, I'm gonna do that. This is, by the way, this is one of the top schools. Just want to emphasize that. This is a good school. This isn't even bad, you guys. Please understand, this isn't, I didn't even have it bad compared to 99% of other places out there. Please understand, I'm being as serious as I fucking be. I mean, as clear as I can be. This is actually a good school, believe it or not.
7 conversations. In the middle of lecturing.
So you see that look over there that I just gave her?
6, 7 conversations going on.
Right.
7 conversations. In the middle of lecturing.
Here, right there. I am looking at her going, isn't this the wildest shit you've ever seen in your life? I'm in the middle of teaching. It's not, again, I can't emphasize enough. It's not a fucking break. I'm trying to, I just gave up. I'm like, why? How can I teach? So we're laughing at each other because it's insane.
I'm just going to 1.14. So we're going to be doing combining like terms. And then be careful when you're be 14B, 30.
So
9, good. Nice job. And then minus.
So the angle is different here because what I did was people could, like, there's 4 students that actually wanted to learn out of the 36. And so they came up to me, as you could see, I'm going, oh, what's going on? I'm looking at them and they go, you know, Mr. Roberts, can we come and sit on the floor next to you on the fucking ground so we can learn math? So that's why you see me turn here and you see how I'm talking to them now because they're sitting on the floor next to me so they could fucking learn. And you could hear I'm frustrated as shit now because it's just unbelievable. And you want to know whose problem it is? It's my problem. Oh, well, you know, you can't get your classroom under control. How about you get the fucking kids out of the room that want to cause the problem for everybody else? How about you do that? That'd be great. So that your kid can learn. Don't point at me as I'm the problem. How about your kid's the problem? That dude's the problem. That guy should be out of the room. He doesn't give a shit. That person should be gone. But, oh, well, your class isn't fun. God, dude, it drives me up a wall. That's fucked up. Yeah, there you go. This is insane. How about zeros all? You can't give zeros, Cindy. Oh, trust me, you can't. You get 50% for not doing anything. Just a heads up. You can't do anything about it? No, I can't. So what I did one year was, this was at a different school. I gave them standards. So if they were talking while I was talking, I'd give them standards. You know, almost like old school Bart Simpsons, but you don't do it on the whiteboard. You do it on a piece of paper. And so I had paragraphs for each violation that you did because I had to get things under control. They just weren't following the rules. Folks, I would have people escorted out by campus security. So I had to figure something out. And so I started giving them paragraph forms. So if you're talking while I'm talking, cool. Here's a paper. This is your homework for tonight on top of the homework I'm going to give you. And I get to decide how many paragraphs you get to write. And if I keep telling you to stop talking, I'm just going to keep doing, I'm going to scratch out the times 2. And now you get times like 15. Have fun writing 15 paragraphs tonight. It's going to take a couple hours. I got called in. Can't do it. It's harassment. It's bullying. I got called in. And not at that school, at a different school. You have people throwing trash. You will have like, so you saw me sitting down. Please understand that normally when I lecture, I'm like standing up. I can walk around with an iPad and move around the room. I walk like 8,000 steps a day. So that tells you how much I walk around the room. So normally I just don't sit there. I just sat there because I'm like, well, shit. I mean, I'm leaving. It doesn't matter. Sorry, but no math class was fun, but we sat and learned. We never have talked like that. I want to emphasize this, you guys. That is a good school, by the way. Let that sink in. That's probably, I'd say 90% of schools are probably way worse than that. And that was, I told my wife that was actually a good day at work. That was actually a good day. Brad, for your sanity's sake, you may have to leave or stay, lower your expectations. No, it's not just California, Dizzy. This is across the nation. What you saw is across that's not bad. You guys, I don't know how to explain it. I know I keep repeating myself, but you guys have to understand teachers are getting abused physically and verbally. You're just not hearing about it on the news. It's happening every day. I've had friends that have been stabbed before. My buddy that teaches in Nevada had a death threat on his life, you guys, in Nevada. I don't know if I've shared that story with you. I'm pretty sure I have. I had permission from him to share it. He was teaching a 5th grade class and they have Chromebooks and they have a messaging system on there. He had over 300 messages of detailing out how they're going to kill him, when they're going to do it, how they're going to do it in the classroom, what firearms they were going to bring, where on his body they were actually going to shoot him. And I think they were going to start with the kneecaps. It's all documented. It'd be no different than somebody pulling up your emails or your text messages between multiple students. The whole plan. And so he caught it and he obviously notifies the school. He notifies the district attorney. The kids were back. I'm not even, this is not even made up. It sounds like I'm fucking pulling this out of my ass. The kids were back in his classroom the next day. You guys don't hear about this. I'm telling you, it's happening everywhere. And I just, you know what I think the frustration is? I don't fucking see anybody care. That's where my frustration is. I hear and see people go, wow, that sucks. That sucks. That's terrible. Those kids were going into freshman year of high school. And when I say they were learning algebra 1, algebra, I can't remember. They're 8th grade. That was 8th grade. The kids that were doing the death threats on my buddy were 5th graders. He walked off the job that day. As you do. But you will have kids that will physically harm a teacher. I'm talking like punch a teacher. They'll be back in the room within like the next week. But my frustration is that I tell people these stories and it's always the same reaction. Wow, that's crazy. It's like, that's all you got? Like, do you go to work and get the fucking shit beat out of you and verbally abused every day? Like, that's normal to you? Because when I was an accountant, that's an HR violation and a write-up. But they're kids. They're just kids. Like, whatever. Yeah. No, sick. Yeah, 5th grade. Yeah. I think it was either 4th or 5th grade. Almost positive. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's 4th or 5th. I understand. I see it daily in Maryland. Yep. Let's go to the chat. I'm kind of curious what you guys have to say about all this. This is insane. How about zeros all around for speaking while I am? Can't do that. The poor kids trying to learn. Yep. They sat on a blanket on the floor next to me. You can't do anything about it. Nope. Seriously. And they won't let the teachers give Fs. Nope. I had a teacher who chucked erasers at us for talking. Can't do that. You'd be fired immediately. Not only would you be fired, you'd probably be sued by multiple parents nowadays. Okay, chat is unfrozen now. Need new parents. Yep, parents don't want a parent. 100%. Sorry, but no math class was fun. What? Oh my God, that's crazy. It's mostly parental problem. Yep, social media is not helping. We need to restrict social media. I agree. I would give up on those kids. It would not be worth it. I did give up. That's why I left. I left immediately. This is why I quit teaching. Well, actually, I quit because a kid choked me and held me in the air with his hands around my throat, but nothing happened to him because of color. Yep. And by the way, I 100% believe her, Miss Mom. I actually believe you 100%. Doesn't surprise me. I understand. I see it daily in MD. Yeah, people need to be woken up to this. Maybe I need to show more education videos of teachers being assaulted because I think my channel is big enough to do that. I think I'm going to start bringing that back. I think I'm going to start making more of an impact on the stuff I used to when we were highlighted by other channels because of the push that we were doing. And let me explain something to you guys too. Nobody wants to talk about this. You know, we're not a small channel anymore. It's not like I have 5,000 subscribers and I'm reaching out to channels. I'm reaching out to people to talk about the education system. Just so you guys know, if you know a name, I've probably reached out to them. They don't want to talk about it. You got to wonder, how is it you don't ever hear anything about the education system other than fucking school choice from these conservatives and Republican influencers, commenters? Isn't it you have an actual educator that's telling you right now, and it's not just, well, my experience. This is experiences happening around the freaking United States. Nobody's talking about it because I don't want to. It's easy. School choice. Oh, let my kid who's already a problem child in this school go to a different school so they could be a problem child and continue to be a problem child and ruin the kids that are in that classroom because the culture is different at different schools. You actually have a good culture and ruin that one. You want to know how I know that happens? Because I've seen it happen to a school. I saw a school in Anaheim, California get destroyed in the matter of 1 year because of something very similar to that. Very similar to that. School choice can completely destroy an area. If you have a bad kid going from one school and multiple into another school, well, you just tainted the entire classroom. You want to know how many kids can just destroy an entire room setting? One. You want to know how I know? Because I've been in there. And they won't remove the kid. The kid will stand up and do fucking jumping jacks in front of you, in front of the entire class while you're teaching. Brad, use your connections to get a meeting with Donald Trump, or they won't. I don't have any connections. They won't. Nobody wants to talk about it. I've asked Donald Trump Jr., by the way. IEPs are not good. It's lowered standards. Yep. I wish I would have never done vaccines for my kids because their heads are falling off. Just kidding. Homeschooling seems to be the only answer. Yes. I will. If I ever have kids, they're not going to the public education system ever. It's either private, and even the private education system is declining. There's various reasons for that. But put it this way, there's a lot of teachers that have homeschooled every single one of their kids. They will not put them in the public education system. Teachers will not put their kids in the public education system. Wouldn't that tell you that it's that bad where they're not even willing to put their kids somewhere where they actually work? Working early, watching replay. Good to see you, Lulu. Was that in Charlotte? No. This why we are stuck in this vicious circle of degeneration. Yeah. Nobody wants to do anything about it. We're lowering the standards, like, of everything. Yeah. Well, we'll see if people wake up to it. I don't think they will. People love to just be ignorant about it, and let's complain about Donald Trump. Like, shouldn't you complain about what's happening to your kids? By the way, all you have to do is talk to your kids about the classroom. I know my kids do. My kids talk about my classroom all the time. I got nothing to hide. I think we should bring, I want 8K cameras in the classrooms with, like, the best audio you've ever seen from different angles. I have nothing to hide, by the way. If you have a teacher who says, I don't want cameras in the classroom, that probably means they have something to hide. I don't have anything to hide. I would love 8K zoomed in cameras in the classroom where you can clip segments, be like, that's your kid right there. Yep. And you see that 8K footage of me zooming in while they're cheating? You see that right there? Yep. That's your kid right there. That's why they got a 0. Because they're more inclined to believe their kid than they are the parent or the teacher or anybody else. Or it's like, yep, that's your kid doing the classroom disruption right there. Oh, how long does it go on for? Let's play the whole clip. Let's do it together. Let's have fun. Let's waste all our times here. I don't want to fucking go home and see my wife. I don't want to go home and hang out with the Patriots. I want to deal with your kid and the shenanigans that are going on because you don't want to do it at home. Oh, we got money coming in from Karen. Karen says, I have to go. Early appointment, so don't know if you have a moderator. Have a fun weekend, Brad. Thank you. I appreciate that, Karen. Appreciate you. We have a moderator. It's me. It's Bald Brad. I am the moderator. Well, with that being said, folks, we have a long day for myself. I hope you all have a lovely weekend. I got people coming in to clean the floors. I have to tear down the studio, believe it or not, after this. So we might have some hiccups next week. And I'm not kidding, by the way. I am taking everything out of here. I got a guy coming over to clean the floors. So with that being said, I hope all of you have a lovely weekend. Thank you for listening to me bitch, moan, and complain today. It was very therapeutic. And please understand that me complaining about the education system doesn't come from a heart of, I hate it, or I don't want what's best for people's kids. That's the opposite. I want what's best for the people's kids. I want them to be in an environment that is lucrative for learning. And I want nothing but for them to succeed and be well off. I can only be so clear about that. I only want people to succeed and be well off. But when you have people in there that are ruining it for others, and it only takes one to ruin it for 35 other people, that frustrates me because there's an easy solution to the problem. You remove the problem child, put him in a separate classroom where he still gets an education, but he has to deal with the other problem child as well. And he'll figure it out later on in life. Folks, we have patriots in the chat that used to be those knuckleheads that I'm talking about that are okay, but they're fine. So I don't have work today, by the way, guys. I have off work. So that's why I'm going a little bit longer. All righty. Well, I appreciate all you guys. You guys have a great day. Oh, by the way, Spooky Adventures is going to be tomorrow for sure. I want to do that. I want to get more into that. I know I always say that, but man, I really do. Have a lovely day. Take care of one another. Pray for this country. Pray for Donald Trump. And we might be back here over the weekend. Hell, we'll see. Nothing's impossible. Take care, Patriots.